fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Welcome back, Star Trek Fleet Command fans. Today, I want to talk about Apex Shred and explain how it works. It's the latest in a slew of additions we've had to the actual combat mechanic of Star Trek Fleet Command. This one coming out to help negate those Apex barriers you've been working so hard on. Now, this video is not going to cover my dislike for this, as I've made it very clear in other videos like our live streams and on Discord that I don't like the constant additions to the mechanic itself, as in the combat mechanic. You know, all these layers right here. There used to be a lot less than we have now. And not just from it's annoying as somebody who likes to run the numbers standpoint, but simply it's so complicated that it's very confusing for the average player to understand what actually makes their account better. But again, let's actually talk about what does Apex Barrier do? Well, as you can see here in this log, you've got them hitting me and me hitting them. And you're going to see we're mitigating Apex Barrier. A big thing of what we want to focus on here is understanding that this isn't about raw numbers. Like, you increasing your Apex Shred isn't about getting 10,000 Apex Shred to negate 20,000 Apex Barrier. It works on an efficiency formula. I know you're going to be like, what do you mean, Rev? If it says it gets rid of 50%, that means I cut it in half. All right, so this is the graphic that you have from Scopely. I'm going to give you another graphic here in a second to remind you kind of like how it works. But 100% Apex Shred, 50% barrier reduction. Reduction being key here because we're not talking pure numbers. You can see examples of that here. So what is efficiency, as in how does it work? Well, it's the exact same actually of how it works when we talk about, and y'all know I talk about this a lot to y'all. You want parts efficiency for your ships, right? So the cost comes down. You want mats efficiency, so the costs come down. Well, same logic here, except you probably expect things to hit a zero, but that's not how efficiency actually works. So if I do 100% efficiency, like you see here, just as it said on the sheet, it's going to go down to 50, assuming you were working with the number of 100. Work with 10,000, go down to 5,000. However, if you went to 200%, that does not drop it down to zero. So it's a slope right here, where the further you get down the line, the closer you get to zero, but never actually get to zero, right? Because it's an efficiency. It's not meant to actually negate everything. It's meant to make it less effective. So it's very big on and key on how they're actually wording this. Now, at the same time, does that make it important? Yes. It actually also makes it to the point where the more you get past a certain point, the less it actually matters. For example, let's say you get to 400% right here. This is most everything, but not everything. Because obviously the bigger the number, the more a bigger percentage helps you. You get to 400, you see it's not really moving much when you get to 600. Like, it moved a little bit. So you are getting that reduction, and then you get into the confusing stuff where Scopely starts talking about true reductions and things like that. But generally speaking, this is how it works. You're not going to get rid of it completely, but you will get rid of a lot of it. And again, the bigger the number, the more you will actually see the effect, because y'all have seen, for example, that I have 1,300% efficiency for my explorers, right? If I want to do those ship parts, but that still doesn't take it down to zero, but it has significantly reduced those costs. Let's back out of this a little bit and let's talk about Apex Barrier. Again, I talked about it, and you see the log for solos. I'm getting that via the favors that you can obtain through the Section 31 faction store. Those are down here. You have 3 different favors specifically for interceptors, explorers, and battleships. But let's take it a step further. So number one, what we've been trying to do for a while is provide y'all tools to understand how things work. One of those tools that we came out with was actually this right here, the Apex Barrier Calculator. So you can see how much Apex Barrier you're rocking, whether it's with research or whether it's with officers. This calculates it for you. So if you put in the damage and we can tell how much got mitigated, we can determine barrier. But now we're going to have to add an element to this with Apex Shred. And let's actually go to Scopely and what they said about Apex Shred. So they have found a way to penetrate our shields. That doesn't make sense because Apex Barrier is not technically your shields. But this is also what I said. This is why it's confusing. Even the first line of this is talking about something this isn't actually doing anything with. But bear with. All right. How Apex Shred works. The Apex Barrier strength appears as a flat number. Apex Shred functions as a percentage. So 100% Apex Shred cuts the opponent's barrier effectiveness by half, regardless of its strength. So 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, all of it ends up resulting the same. So it's not a flat reduction. That was the point of me showing you the pretty graph, right? In fact, for the sake of this, we'll have the pretty graph on the screen while we talk about this. So you can actually see the visual of what they're saying. So pushing beyond 100% apex allows more damage to pierce the barrier, although each additional percentage becomes increasingly difficult to achieve. So what is that saying? That is a very politically correct, very nice way of saying the more you get, the less what you're getting has an effect. But the more you have, the more effect you have. So the simple layman's version of that is if you get 100%, that's your best value. And then if you were, for example, to pay for another 100%, the 100% you just purchased the second time isn't worth as much as what you purchased the first time. But at the same time, you kind of want to go further down the list to bring down the total number. See how it works? See why they like efficiency so much? Oh, yeah, you do. All right, so 200% apex shred reduces the barrier 1/3 of its normal strength, 300%, 1/4, 400, 1/5. You get the point. If you manage 900 apex shred, you weaken the barrier to 1/10 of its normal protective ability. And again, this is something that you can see in the game in terms of being effective. And again, this is also the point of the graph because big, look, 900%, see how it's at 10? That's exactly how it works. Now, again, if you have 200,000 apex barrier, having 900% apex shred is really good because you want to cut down that number as much as possible. So let's just say you had 1,000,000 apex barrier. Well, if you can bring it down to 100,000, or if you had 100,000, you can bring it down to 10,000. It means it's far less effective. Now, the burden is still on the other player to get more and more apex barrier, but this is a way to significantly reduce apex barrier immediately. So even if you only had 100% apex shred, you're still cutting down their damage in half. All right, let's keep going. You can never fully bypass apex barrier, like I was telling y'all before, similar to how you can never reduce incoming isolatic damage to 0 with isolatic defense. However, you can weaken it significantly. There's your final thoughts. These are the two graphics that we just worked with. So the basic premise of what we're doing here is exactly as it's talking about. We're going to take that defensive modifier that we just had and we're going to make it less effective, right? So what you can see is so many of our builds that we have in today's game are built around apex barrier, the newer stuff. For example, this PvP crew. This PvP crew is built around a lot of apex barrier, hence the having of Mirahura right here to increase that, my apex barrier, right? But you also have the defensive side of that with other things like your research tree. Go into your mirror research tree. How much do you see with things like apex barrier that's come out that it says, hey, you want to have this apex barrier really good, just like they've pushed ISO. So you want to continually increase both of these numbers. But the of apex shred is the exact same idea of the isolatic defense. We're just trying to cut the number or cut its effectiveness as much as we can. And by doing that, having something is what matters, right? I'm not telling you that you need to go out and have 1,000 apex shred or 1,000% rather, but you do want to have at least something. Because again, 100% apex shred cuts it in half, even though you get way down the line, you might never get it to 0. You need something. So is apex shred something that every player should invest in STFC? In one way or another, yes, whether it come through research trees, favors, which are basically just research trees that get thrown into a faction store, all those, the answer is absolutely yes. You should absolutely get some form of shred for every form that you can. However, I would add that just like ISO defense, it might not be something that you need to focus so much into. Like, yes, do it, but I'm not saying go break the bank to go after it either, because there is a point of diminishing returns. And I specifically am speaking to my spenders out there. If you want to get ahead of the game right now and get your first 100, 200%, maybe even 400% apex barrier, and you're willing to pay for that, cool. But just keep in mind, the money you're spending, if you're getting percentage 800, 900, you're not getting as much bang for your buck as you were when you bought that 100 or that 200. Just keep that in mind. More is more, and it is better. But I don't want people to just blindly go in there thinking that if they get 500 apex shred or 500%, even I have to catch myself, going to magically just get rid of all their apex barrier, making them soft targets. That's not how it works. So just like that formula shows you, it slopes off as you get deeper and deeper. Again, reiterate, the higher that apex barrier is, you want those bigger numbers, but that's how it works. And that's why it never reaches 0. Always going to have some type of ISO damage, some type of apex barrier. If you can reduce its effectiveness, that's the idea behind these mechanics. I hope this explained it, and I get that these types of things can be confusing. Welcome to game math, but hope you enjoyed the video. Like the video if you haven't already. It's a big help to the channel and greatly appreciated here. Live long and plunder. Stay safe with the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next Star Trek League Man video. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comment section down below, and I'll see you on the next one.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.